ఇది మహాభారతం మహాభారతం ఇది మహాభారతం మహాభారతం ఇది మహాభారతం.
Namaste to everyone. I extend a very grand welcome to this weekend's Mahabharat. Yes, now we entered into the third weekend. So in continuation with the second weekend, many of you might have already known that we started Indian History series. So in the Indian History series, in the last weekend we have discussed the topic, how did universe come into existence? So this was the topic that we discussed. So if you have not watched the previous class, because this is continuation to that, please do refer to that. So a small recap for those who did not watch it, just one or 2 minutes recap. So what we have discussed in the last class? We have discussed first about Edwin Hubble. So what was the theory of Edwin Hubble? It was Big Bang theory. In 1920 he proposed it. So we discussed about Big Bang theory's postulates, or what Big Bang theory says about the origin of the universe. So we discussed that, and then we came to the next theory, Hoyles Theory, which came in contrast, which came to counter the Edwin Hubble's theory. So we also saw that. After that we saw how did stars form. How did stars form? We have seen. And then we also studied, we have analyzed how did planets for the first time start forming planets. And then we came to specifically about Earth. So we have studied, we have discussed the theories like Immanuel Kant's theory of nebular hypothesis, and then Laplace revised Immanuel Kant's theory. Then we discussed about Chamberlain and Moulton theory, and yes, we discussed about then binary theories, and the last we concluded at what? The last final theory, that was the revised nebular hypothesis, that was by Otto Schmidt and Carl Weizsäcker. So we ended the last lecture at the formation of the universe and formation of the earth, that is at 4.6 billion years ago we stopped. Yes, so today's class, if you see, the topic for today's class is very, very important topics. Sir, if you have to understand Indian history, as the previous class was completely based on astronomy, we discussed how the physical material was started forming on this in this universe. That's what the universe formation, physical material, completely physical. There is no life in it. Planets, stars, asteroids, comets, everything were physical in nature. So we started studying our Indian history from the formation of the physical matter. But in this class we are going to study about very, very peculiar, very relevant, especially to the living organisms. That is, how did life come into existence? So please, you just imagine formation of planets, formation of stars, formation of comets and asteroids was not much to be wondered, not much to be enthusiased by listening that. Why? Because we already discussed that there was a point of singularity before 13.7 billion years ago, from where all these have come up. After the explosion, they got dispersed and formed. That means there was something before 13.7 billion years ago which led to the formation of this complete universe. So there was a reason-based arguments, so it's believable. But how did life come into existence? This is, even till today, sir, please listen, even till today, no scientist could establish the evidence that how could life actually induced. But we studied how it evolved, but we don't know till today how did life actually come into existence. So our topic today is also that, how did life come into existence? So how to study that when there is no answer itself? How to study that? Here comes that when we don't have the answer, we'll have to go by the facts and the remaining evidence, at least, if not the complete answer, at least the input that we have from the question itself, That we have to analyze. So that's what we are going to do today. Yes, here starts our lecture. How did life come into existence on this beautiful planet Earth? So now we are in continuation with the second class. We are at 4.6 billion years ago. Our Earth got formed, as we have studied, from nebula. That means a gaseous cloud in which there was a gravitational core around which this gaseous cloud was condensed and become a small solid, round solid, and that small planetesimals combined, one or more different planetesimals combined because of the gravitational force between them, and they became a larger body, that is planet Earth. Sir, please understand that when the Earth has formed at 4.6 billion years ago, what was the condition of the Earth? Just imagine, I will tell you what was the characteristics of the Earth which led to the formation of life. We have to see now. Yes. See, when Earth was formed, it was completely barren. Completely barren. Barren means there was no even a single drop of water on the planet Earth. You can just imagine, just like we are seeing today, the surface of the Mars, the surface of the Moon, etc., the images, right? In the same way, it was completely barren. Not even a single drop of water was there on the Earth. And the Earth was completely rocky. Rocky. Why rocky? Because, see, during this formation, when planetesimals are accumulated to each other, this accretion process was happening, layers are forming. You can observe that this completely the Earth was only made up of dust material, that is solid material. Gas became solid by the process of condensation. But there was no water molecules present. There was no water bodies present. So completely, when there is no water, please understand, this is the principle. When there is no water, there will never be any vegetation existing. Yes or no? Yes. So when there is no vegetation, complete surface is being exposed. That's why we call that Earth in the initial stages was completely rocky. Now if you see the third most characteristics of our primitive Earth was, it was completely hot object, very hot object. Why hot object? We discussed that when Big Bang event at 13.7 billion years ago happened, the temperature was infinite. Density was infinite. But slowly after 3 lakh years, the temperature came down to around 4,500 kelvins. We discussed in the last class. And by 4.6 billion years ago, it further cooled down, but still the temperature was very high. It was not possible to sustain some life supporting system on the Earth. So Earth was too barren, Earth was too hot, Earth was too rocky. And if you see the primitive Earth, when it was formed, it was having a very small thin layer of atmosphere, very thin layer of atmosphere. Why? See, atmosphere is nothing but the outer layer of the Earth. When the Earth was forming itself, to the gravitational core, when different planetesimals are coming and attaching and forming the outer layers, generally you will observe one pattern. What is that? From inside to the outside, if you see, the density will normally lessens. Why? Because of gravitational force which is inside, because the other planetesimals are coming and attaching to this, normally the density will be more in the center. And as the outer layers are forming, they will be loosened normally compared to the core. That's why we say in the interior of the Earth, the density is too high. And as you come outer to the from core to the mantle, from mantle to the crust, from crust to the atmosphere, this density got lessens. That's the reason we have very thin atmosphere existing in when the Earth got formed. So please imagine, this thin atmosphere was not the same atmosphere what we are seeing today, like nitrogen, oxygen, nitrogen content of 70%, oxygen content of 21%. No, the thin atmosphere which was attached to the Earth surface as a layer, as a shell, was called as the primordial atmosphere. So please listen, this primordial atmosphere is containing only two gases. There is no nitrogen, there is no oxygen, there is nothing at all. What the gases we are seeing today, they were not present then. Only two gases. That primordial atmosphere of our Earth was having only two gases. What are they? As we have already studied, when Big Bang event was happened, in that point of singularity we have only two gases, hydrogen and helium. All the material which was actually exploded will also have the same two gases. That's the reason the first primordial atmosphere of our Earth was having only two gases. They are hydrogen and helium. So clear? This was the condition of the Earth around 4.6 billion years ago when it got formed. It was barren, rocky, hot, thin layer of atmosphere, only hydrogen and helium. There is no water, there is no life supporting system. But sir, please listen, if you understand the inspirational journey of our planet Earth from being in such a condition where barren, rocky, hot, to this today's state of our Earth, which is completely the most beautiful planet in the complete universe per se. It was having the world's in the universe. This is the only planet which is supporting life system. This is the only planet which have very beautiful green vegetation. This is the only planet which have water. This is the only planet which have air, abundant of air, atmosphere. How it is possible? From being barren, it became the green corridor of the solar system. How could this happen? Is this not an inspirational journey? So let's see how could Earth actually succeeded in achieving this success of sustaining the life and life supporting system. See, life to start, life to originate, to create, there needs to be certain conditions normally. So we have already seen that the conditions were not good when it got formed. So first the setup has to be formed to the life to start. Yes sir. So what was the setup? Let's see. First thing is how atmosphere should be forming. That we have to study. The present day atmosphere got evolved. And what is life supporting system in which life can be originated? The life supporting system have three components. The first component is atmosphere. So please understand, a life to be originated, a life to sustain, it needs continuous breathing or intaking of different gases. So atmosphere is a necessity component of the life supporting system. But atmosphere was not there when 4.6 billion years ago. The composition of gases was not proper to life. So first condition failed. Second condition, for life to be created, it needs hydrosphere. Hydrosphere means water. Without water, no metabolic activity will happen inside an organism or life organism. There was not even a single drop of water present on the Earth when it got formed. So second point also not qualified. And the third important thing is, it should have a lithospheric land, a lithospheric crust area to accommodate these life things, life processes, life organisms. So these are the three primary components of a life supporting system. One is atmosphere, another one is hydrosphere, third one is lithosphere. Only if one of three are absent, life cannot be produced, life cannot be originated and sustained. So how our Earth, our Mother Earth, has actually managed to produce, to create these three at a time parallelly? How could our Mother Earth have done it? Let's see. The Mother Earth is the biggest inventor in my view to say, because it created such many diversified animals from being barren mother. So let's see how it did. Very interesting, right? Let's see. See the early atmosphere actually, how it started evolving. As I have said, the primordial atmosphere was having hydrogen and helium. It was very thin, as I said. So normally from sun, if you see, sun is the nearest star to us. So normally from sun, every second there will be huge solar winds emits out by the surface, the solar surface, that is sun's corona, we call it as. So in space, if you see, sun is always emitting a huge looms of the what I said, this solar winds. So at every second the solar winds will be flowing in the space. So as because the earth is having very little thin atmosphere, because of that pressure, that looms of pressure of solar winds, this small atmosphere, the primordial atmosphere, which is having only hydrogen and helium, got stripped off. It got stripped off after some around 4.5 billion years ago. Now if you see, earth is not having any atmosphere now. In the early forms, if you see, in the early forms, as the time was going on, as the earth was formed around 4.6 billion years ago, so inside earth all the particles were started compressing, contacting very tightly the inside earth, because the core formation happening, outer layers formation happening. So because of this contact, huge contact, densification, the temperature and the pressure inside the earth was started increasing. When this outer layer, outer atmosphere got stripped off because of the solar winds, inside temperature of the earth got started increasing. So this is normally we call as energy building phase, or the energy will be built up, the pressure will be built up inside the earth because of this addition of new layers and forming the new layers like mantle, like crust, etc. Because that was still in the phase of creation itself. So what happened? When that huge temperature, under that huge pressure, this inner core and inner mantle actually was trying to escape, to liberate that energy to the outside. Normally when energy built up, it just escapes. So now what is happening was, at around 4.5 billion years ago, this inside pressure and inside temperature became a reason for the starting of earth activities, earth processes. What are the earth processes? So to liberate, to escape this energy which was built up, for the first time Mother Earth searched for the path to the surface. So there will be normally some cracks will exist, because the planetesimals, when got attached to one another, they will not be completely zero vacuum contact. So normally some voids will exist in between them. That will lead to some weak zones will exist. Because the inside pressure and temperature was too high, that weak zones will become cracks. And now our Mother Earth started releasing the energy to the surface of the earth. So see how Mother Earth is very, very brilliant, sir, brilliant. So now what is happening? From the inside, energy got releasing out through the cracks of the layers, the just forming layers. That led to the activity called as earthquakes. So please listen, earthquake activity was actually started exhibiting because of the inbuilt pressure of earth, inbuilt temperature of the earth. Why inbuilt temperature? Because of huge densification in the process of making of earth. Simple. So now earthquakes started. Slowly energy got releasing out to the surface. Now imagine inside the core we will have what is core, what is mantle, what is crust. These are the gaseous clouds, and gases became atomic matter and energy, the combination of matter and energy. So energy will drive the matter to the surface of earth to release the temperature and pressure conditions. So that is what happening. That is what called as the earthquake and volcanic activity. So the first activity Mother Earth started to release the energy to the outside surface was earthquakes and then volcanic activity. See here actually lies the cause for the formation of atmosphere. See, very interesting. So when volcanic activity was happening from inside, when the lava is getting outside, what is lava? The inside material, inside molten material, atomic matter got releasing out under the huge pressure conditions. So when they got released onto the surface, which was barren, which was rocky, For the first time, if you see, rocks formation was happening. Lava was, cool. I mean, upon the time it cools, the moment it cools, it will become solid rock. So for the first time, the crust was started forming. For the first time, because of the cooling of the lava, the crust was started forming around the earth outer layer. So what is meant by crust? Lithosphere. So our earth started forming lithosphere first. Please remember, as I have said, lithosphere, that is the crust, the land, the area to accommodate the life form should be there, na? So that was actually being prepared by Mother Earth. So now lithosphere got formed because of this, cooling effect of this lava, and also as the outer temperature is also cooling down, the outer layers of the earth will condense and they become solids. So this is the formation of lithosphere. So now land got formed around the earth, the outer layer became thick, so there was space. Now the next question, our Mother Earth was thinking, how could I create atmosphere? Now listen, very 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 innovative thing. When the volcanic activity was happening, lava comes out, so liquid which was come out upon the cooling temperatures became solid rocks, igneous rocks. But the gases, the dissolved gases which were there actually inside the lava, because lava is nothing but the molten liquid actually made up of gaseous clouds which actually formed the surface itself, the layers itself. So gas was, inevitably gas was there. So that gas was to be liberated. When the lava comes out, that gas has to be liberated. That's where the first gases started forming a small shell-like structure, a shell-like layer around the outer surface of the earth. That was the earliest atmosphere that our earth was making herself by releasing her internal energy out. Understand? So now let's see. Volcanic activity happening, gases were releasing out, water vapor was releasing out. So these gases were started forming a small shell, a small layer around the earth that got developed into a small earliest atmosphere. Now, listen. What was the condition of this earliest atmosphere? Atmosphere was not completely developed. So what was the composition? Let's say first primordial atmosphere, only hydrogen and helium. But now the internal gases were coming out. That means the composition will normally vary. Now if you see the earliest atmosphere, the composition was, first important points are very important. First important point was free oxygen was very little or absent. Free oxygen. What is free oxygen? O2. Oxygen will exist in free state. That means to breathe, for example, life, to breathe oxygen, it should be in free state. That means O2. Oxygen will exist as O2, as if in its free state. So that O2, the free oxygen composition was too less or absent in the earliest atmosphere. Then what was actually it was made up of then, if not oxygen? It was completely made up of carbon dioxide. Sir, when lava liberated out, rich and abundant amounts of carbon dioxide was attached to the layer of atmosphere. So lot of carbon dioxide was there in the earliest atmosphere. Around 80 to 90% was completely carbon dioxide. Along with the carbon dioxide, the earliest atmosphere have nitrogen, earliest atmosphere have ammonia, methane. So there was no oxygen in the earliest atmosphere. Carbon dioxide was there, methane was there, ammonia was there. So these were the three gases which were abundant, forming the earliest atmosphere. But still our Mother Earth was not satisfied. Why? It was not satisfied because, see, to start the life, oxygen was to be there. But except oxygen, all other gases are forming the atmosphere. So what should it do? Our Mother Earth started thinking innovatively. See what it does. So now carbon dioxide was too rich in the atmosphere, which was not not suitable for life forming. by then, by around 4.4 billion years ago, this was happening. So by 4.4 billion years ago, if you see, the outer temperature, I mean in the space, normally the temperature got a little cooler than before. So because of these little cooled temperatures, the just now forming atmosphere, if you see, which was made up of completely carbon dioxide, nitrogen, ammonia, methane. So this just forming atmosphere, that means gas layer. So gas layer under cold temperatures, what it becomes? It changes its state. So what is the changed state of gas? Gas will become liquid. That is called as condensation process. So upon cooling of the temperatures, a gas will become slowly liquid, and that liquid particles are combined to form a cloud. So for the first time on Mother Earth, sir, please understand, and for the first time around 4.4 billion years ago, our Mother Earth formed clouds with its atmosphere. Clouds, but of what? Of carbon dioxide, of nitrogen clouds, of methane, of ammonia. So all these clouds were forming because of the cool temperatures in the air, in the space in general. So when the condensation process happens, what is condensation? Gas will become liquid. Just like the clouds. Normally today if you see clouds in the sky, that is nothing but liquid particles. Liquid, that is not solid. Gas becomes condensed, that is liquid. Water droplets, they are the collection of water droplets. In the same way, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, they also condense and become the clouds. And so please understand, when cloud density was increased, normally the drops will fall down. When the density becomes too heavy to hold in the air, to float in the air, they normally fall down. That led. So please understand that falling down of the condensed gases, earliest gases, become rain. So that falling down of condensed particles of condensed liquid droplets of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane and ammonia, they became, for the first time on Mother Earth, rain was happening. Rain, but rain was not of water. It was of, because to get water, oxygen should be there. It is H2O. There was no oxygen. So carbon dioxide rain was happening for the first time. Carbon dioxide dissolved rain was happening. It was chemical rain. So please remember the fact here. The first rain which occurred on this earth was completely chemical in nature, not water. Water is also a chemical, but in general sense I said, other chemicals than water, nitrogen, ammonia, carbon dioxide, etc. Now listen. So our Mother Earth was motivated a lot, because for the first time rain was happening on her surface. See, when Earth got formed, it was not a regular shape, to be very round, very spherical. No, right? Because it was just an accumulation of different planetesimals, small rounded particles. So normally we can expect a lot of depressions exist on the surface of the earth. Irregular, lot of depressions will exist. So at 4.4 billion years ago, when this carbon dioxide rain, when this nitrogen rain was happening, all these depressions which were there on the surface of the earth started collecting them. So I said, till then earth was barren, till then earth was rocky, but for the first time earth was having some liquid on its surface, some chemical liquid. So that slowly, those depressions are, because of the rain effect, they are also spreading. Erosion process happens normally because of the raindrop effect. So normally depressions become bigger and bigger, and those depressions, upon collection of rainwater for some millions of years, became oceans. So please understand, now we are at 4 billion years ago. Chalo. So by 4 billion years ago, this was happening. Hydrological cycle was establishing. That was the main principle what Mother Earth was actually operating upon. She already created crust, lithosphere. She already created atmosphere by releasing internal energy out through the volcanic activity, and addition of gases happened as an atmosphere. Now she is working upon hydrosphere. So this is the way rain started occurring, and then depressions collected the rainwater. Upon the continuous heat from the sun, this rainwater started evaporation, and the same rainwater is now becoming gaseous and adding again to the atmosphere. So this cycle, atmosphere gas condensation, and then it becoming rain falling down to the depressions like oceans, and then again evaporation. So this cycle is called as hydrological cycle. So now the life supporting system slowly started evolving. Lithosphere was there, crust was formed. Hydrosphere was there, liquids, oceans operation was there, but not of oxygen. Without oxygen, complete hydrological cycle was happening. It was not hydrological cycle. We should not say use the term like that. It is actually some liquid cycle, we can say. Liquid cycle, liquid to gaseous, gaseous to condensation, condensations to liquid. This cycle was happening. So next, atmosphere was there. So all the required three components were Mother Earth equipped with all this. But what Mother Earth was actually lacking in, the main important component, that is oxygen. So oxygen, how oxygen has to be there to evolve, high organisms, life organisms. How? Let's see. Here happens the magic. So please understand, by now we are at 4 billion years ago. So till now universe got formed, which is physical completely, there is no life. Stars formed, there is no life in them. Planets formed, there is no life in them. First time energy got released, volcano activity, earthquakes activity started, there is no life in that. First time earliest atmosphere got formed, there is no life in that. It was gaseous physical material. First time rain was happening, no life in that. But now, sir, this is the most precious phase of our universe in general, Earth in specific. From 4 billion years ago, when this hydrological cycle was established and oceans got formed, oceans are the first physical bodies which formed on this Earth. Oceans, and along with the crust, that is lithosphere. So now setup has completed. Now our Earth has to prepare for the next new innovation, that is life. Let's see how it happened. Very beautiful, sir, very beautiful. Sir, you don't believe. Actually, inside the oceans, what was happening? Let's see. Now I am speaking the timeline of 4 to 3.8 billion years ago. In between these around 20 crore years, what was happening was, first, our mother Earth's surface have formed with certain elements normally, hydrogen, helium, etc. Because those are the starting ancestral gases. So normally that will exist in the surface of the Earth, hydrogen, helium. Those are two elements. And from the atmosphere, carbonized rain was happening. So carbon dioxide is normally coming and attaching with this hydrogen, helium on the surface, in the oceans, on the bedrock. I am saying the chemical reaction, what was happening? Let's imagine, on the bedrock we have hydrogen, helium, which is of surface. From the rain we are getting carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, ammonia in the dissolved form of rain. So these are started coming up, and from the inside of the Earth also lot many gases are coming. Lava was coming out, and it was also go and at one point of time mix with the ocean, the surrounding lava, volcanic activity. So all this, please, the crux here is that hydrogen, helium, material from lava, from rain, from carbon dioxide, all these chemical molecules, over millions of years, they started slowly forming some organic molecules, chemical organic molecules, very complex molecules in the surface, in the bedrock of the ocean. It is very normal. Hydrogen, when different chemical compounds combine, they form different complex molecules. That's what happening. So carbon dioxide, carbon was there. What is organic molecule? Organic molecule is a molecule, a chemical molecule in which carbon hydrogen bonds were existing. And here interesting thing is that for the first time all this got mixed up. These were there before also, but they were not mixed up. But for the first time, ocean became a container, ocean became a platform to mix all these gases, all these chemical molecules. So now they got mixed up and they started forming some complex substances inside the ocean. And those substances, because of the presence of carbon, which came from carbon dioxide in the form of rain, because of the presence of carbon, they formed the organic molecules, which was chemical itself. Chemical, simply to say, chemical compound was forming inside the ocean. That's what happening. So now, sir, please understand, at 3.8 billion years ago, now I am speaking 3.8 billion years ago, when all these molecules are getting combined with each other and they are forming complex organic molecules, these small complex organic molecules are attaching with one another. This is called as assemblage of organic chemical compounds. This chemical compound, which was formed out of all the present elements which were there at 3.8 billion years ago, they came together at ocean, they got mixed up, they formed complex molecules, and those molecules, chemical compounds which formed out of them, are called as primordial soup. So please important, this is very important term, primordial soup. What is this primordial soup? It is the chemical compound, the chemical molecules, chemical soup which formed inside the ocean by the combination of all these molecules. So this primordial soup was organic in nature. It was lacking life. Sir, please, till now also, by this time also, there was no life. It was chemicals which were forming. And here, at 3.8 billion years ago, when this primordial soup was matured, different complex molecules are forming by the chemical reaction of different molecules. There happened some miracle. Even till today, no scientist could establish the evidence, no scientist could explain the phenomenon that how a organic chemical molecule started duplicating itself. Sir, please important, this is very important. For the first time, from one molecule, two molecules are coming. What a beautiful character. How it was happening, nobody knows. Nobody knows how it was happening. But from one complex organic molecule, it is becoming 2, it is becoming 4, 6. This duplication character, from where it came, we don't know. How and what is the main reason for it, we don't know. But this duplication of organic material started. Sir, please understand, this duplication characteristic is actually a biological character. So for the first time, chemical reactions actually became biological in nature. Here comes actual question that who is the reason for that? Who is the reason? Whether God, Brahma is the reason. Whether God, Brahma inducing life in it, we don't know. We don't know whether chemicals themselves are becoming like that just randomly. We don't know. But at 3.8 billion years ago, these chemical complex molecules became biological in nature. They started a duplication process inside the ocean, duplicating themselves. It was a wonder. That for the first time, chemical is behaving in a biological way. This was inside the ocean. It was responding to the environment slowly. That chemical molecules, which was only one cell, single cell, it was a molecule, a complex molecule, that's all, formed of different elements. So that single cell, unicellular organic cell, I can say, that is now responding. It is responding to the nature. It is responding to the nature that is inside the ocean. The conditions, it was responding. That's where life started on this earth, and it happened around 3.8 billion years ago. And the first unicellular, some organism formed out of this huge complex primordial soup was Cyanobacteria. So this name is very important. Please remember Cyanobacteria. So Cyanobacteria, this is very popularly called as blue-green algae. So for the first time at 3.8 billion years ago, blue-green algae was found. Now, so life was found. But still remember, there was no efficient oxygen supply. There was no oxygen in the atmosphere. Still carbon dioxide was dominant. But carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide gas was dissolving in the rainwater and coming down, the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere slowly coming down. But oxygen was not going up. So now Mother Earth was thinking. It created life somehow. Somehow blue-green algae started its career. But how oxygen to be added up to the atmosphere? This is the next question of our Mother Earth. So let's see how it did. So what Mother Earth did was, this cyanobacteria, which is unicellular in actual nature, which is a chemical turned biological organism. Before that it was chemical, but now it became a biological organism. So this has a very tremendous, precious, distinct quality. Do you know what is that quality? That quality is photosynthesis. So everybody know what is photosynthesis is. Photosynthesis is nothing but the preparation of the food by an organism with the usage of photo, that is light, and carbon dioxide, which was present in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide was abundant in nature. Light was abundant because of the nearest star sun. So two raw materials were there. So this unicellular bacteria, cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, started producing some chemical compound that is called as food. Some chemical compounds, that is glucose in general to say. So food in normal words. So this cyanobacteria started producing food by the process of photosynthesis. So by around, if you see, 3.8 years blue-green algae formed. By around 3.5 billion years ago to around 2.5 billion years ago, around 100 crore years, this process of photosynthesis continuously happening by occurring, operating by whom? By this blue-green algae for 100 crore years, sir. 100 crore years, you can imagine. And there is a fact here that in the photosynthesis process, it uses carbon dioxide and light. That becomes some food, that is glucose, but at the same time, along with that food, oxygen will be liberated. This is the chemical reaction you all might have known. So here Mother Earth got an opportunity that yes, photosynthesis has to be improved a lot, so that what happens? Oxygen will be liberated out. So that becomes rich in the atmosphere, which further sustains the life. So this is the great mechanism, sir, great mechanism. So blue-green algae started photosynthesis for 100 crore years. It was continuously doing it. So in that 100 crore years, in the first 50 crore or 60 crore years, when photosynthesis was continuously happening by it was doing photosynthesis, blue-green algae, inside the ocean, the oxygen content was continuously improving, sir. Continuously improving, because 60 crore years photosynthesis was continuously happening. So every time when photosynthesis happens, oxygen liberates. That oxygen adds to the ocean. So by after 60 crore years, within 60 crore years, complete ocean was saturated with oxygen. Saturated. Salute to this, sir. Please, we have to salute to this blue-green algae, because she is the one. I am using she in respect of a motherhood, because blue-green algae was the reason for the addition of oxygen to this earth, and that oxygen is the reason for our life sustenance. So indirectly, blue-green algae was actually the reason for our life sustenance. That's the reason I call blue-green algae as the greatest mother of all the living organisms, greatest mother after Mother Earth. So now we are now at 3.5 to around 2.5 billion years ago. Photosynthesis was continuously happening. Oxygen was too much liberating out, and all the oceans got saturated with the oxygen. Now once the oceans got saturated with the oxygen, O2, free molecule, then oxygen started escaping out from the oceans towards atmosphere. So sir, please understand, by around 2 billion years ago, 2 to 2.5, the latter half of photosynthesis of 100 crore years phase, I am saying, in the latter half, after ocean got saturated with the oxygen started adding up to the atmosphere. So when it was 0% in the earliest atmosphere, when carbon dioxide was around 80%, carbon dioxide content was getting down because of the overusage. By whom? Carbon dioxide was overusing by whom? Blue-green algae. Why? For photosynthesis. What it is producing? Oxygen. That means it is taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. So here happens, the villain goes down and the hero comes up. Oxygen added up to the atmosphere, carbon dioxide content reduced in the atmosphere, and over some millions of years, if you see, now atmosphere got stabilized. After some millions of this process of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide content came down much to less than 1%, and the oxygen content percentage from 0% increased to around 20-21%. That's completely the contribution of blue-green algae, sir. Blue-green algae and photosynthesis process. So now, in our oxygen, the composition was like this. Nitrogen content was around 70%. Oxygen content was around 20-21%. Carbon dioxide content was less than 1%. And all other, methane, ammonia, they were there, sulfur dioxide were there, but less than 1%. So this atmosphere, which was stabilized, by then photosynthesis process was also stabilized. That means when first carbon dioxide was abundant, photosynthesis was started, getting its pace. Then oxygen content started slowly adding up. This is decreasing, this is increasing, and there comes a point where photosynthesis rate will be stabilized, so that the atmospheric composition rate will also get stabilized, and the same process will continue as a cycle. That's the reason oxygen or the nitrogen or in per se any other gas composition in the atmosphere never changes much. So this 70% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, less than 1% of carbon dioxide, all these were almost in a range. They will not much change, because photosynthesis rate was there. It acts as a moderator. When the content was increased, for example, carbon dioxide content was too much, then what, this photosynthesis rate will become too much. Why? For blue-green algae, carbon dioxide is only the food to prepare its own food. So when it increases, it will also get increases, photosynthesis. That's the reason photosynthesis process acts as a balance to the increase of the carbon dioxide. Sir, please, here I want to just take you out to the present day and to a general issue, that is global warming. Normally global warming is nothing but that increase of carbon dioxide. And to counter that, what we have to do, now we understood very clearly. To counter that global warming, one thing is addition of carbon dioxide should be decreased. Another thing is deletion of carbon dioxide has to be increased from the atmosphere. So the first point is actually very difficult, because addition of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, it is very difficult to reduce, sir, because we have around 200 countries in our world. Every country wants to develop, industrially, scientifically, in every domain, every country wants to develop. And we have only one model of development that was actually prepared by European countries, to say, that is fossil fuels, we always extract the fossil fuels. From them we use, we produce electricity, we produce different energy forms, and with them we run transportation system, we run construction industry, etc. So this extraction of fossil fuels actually is the cause of addition of carbon dioxide. Why? When a fuel is burned, when a fossil fuel is burned, generally carbon dioxide will be liberated out from it and it adds to the atmosphere. For example, the gas which comes out from vehicles, pollution we call it as. So this addition of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, we cannot do much in it. Only we can reduce it, but very little by green technology, etc. But second step was there now, that is deletion of carbon dioxide from atmosphere. That is a little bit potential area to work upon. That is how blue green, in the same example, if we see what was happening at around 4 to some 3.5 to 2.5 billion years ago, 3.5 to 2.5 billion years ago, that is 100 crore years of time. In that time, what was happening? Blue-green algae was taking in carbon dioxide by increasing rate of photosynthesis. That's the reason carbon dioxide content was reducing, and it is giving out oxygen. The same principle we have to use today also, that we have to focus on those organisms which performs photosynthesis. We have to protect them, we have to increase their number. What are they? First thing is plants. Second thing is these like things like animals. In animals we have these bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria, etc. But they are very little contribution. But if you see now, we have evolved trees, evolved plants. That's the reason vegetation. So please understand, forests are very, very, very important. Vegetation, forests are very important. So forest can act as a balance to global warming. Understand? So this was happening around 2.5 billion years ago. Just now came back to our story. Just a small interruption. I'm very sorry for that. Now we came around 2.5 billion years ago. Photosynthesis rate has stabilized, and even atmospheric composition was stabilized. Now everything was ready. Everything was ready. Oxygen was also there. Now our Mother Earth jumps into the stage, and now she does great things, sir. Great things. You listen. What is that? From 2.5 billion years ago, if you see, from first, I'll tell you the timeline. I'll tell you the summary till now. From here, once the atmosphere, once the hydrosphere, once the lithosphere got formed, now our Mother Earth will not stop. Now this is her time. Her time. She will show what it is. What is her capability. We'll have a small summary to this. At 13.7 billion years ago, Big Bang event happened. At around, from 13.7, when it got expanded, by around 12 billion years ago, universe was formed. 12 billion years ago. At around 6 to 5 billion years ago, stars formed. At around 4.6 billion years ago, planets formed. 4.6 billion years ago. At around 4 billion years ago, oceans got formed on the earth. 4 billion years ago. After that, if you see, at 3.8 billion years ago, first time Cyanobacteria, that is blue-green algae, formed inside the ocean. And at around 3.5 to 2.5 billion years ago, where we are right now in our discussion, from 3.5 to 2.5 billion years ago, photosynthesis process was at such a rate which actually stabilized the atmosphere. So by 2.5 billion years ago, we were ready on this earth. Our earth is mentally ready, environmentally ready, physically ready for a new evolution. So let's see how this evolution process happened. Let's see. So 2.5 billion years ago, first only we had blue-green algae for around 1 to 2 billion years ago. The first life form on this earth was blue-green algae. It was the only single unicellular organism. But after that, what happened was, by around 2.5 to almost around, let's say 2 billion years ago, a very small soft bodied arthropods were developing inside the ocean. From whom? From the blue green algae branch itself. Evolution process was happening. How? First soft bodied arthropods came up. I said, what is meant by arthropod? Arthropods are the first animals. Arthropods are the animal class, and they are, arthro means jointed, pods means legs. So arthropods means joint legged animals. Inside the ocean itself, after blue green algae, joint legged animals. What are they? For example, insects. For example, shrimps. For example, very small insects like flies, ocean flies. So these were the first animals which were slowly soft-bodied animals, invertebrates. They have no backbone, nothing at all. Very soft-bodied, joint-legged. There is no, clear separation of their legs. Completely joint-legged. Small insects were developing. This was happening. So once these small, soft-bodied things were slowly got developing. If you see from around there, from 2 billion years ago to around, let's say 50 crore years ago. Come to 50 crore years ago now. From now, 50 crore years ago back. Sir, there is a one fact. Before 50 crore years ago, there was no life on terrestrial land. There was no life. When first life formed in 3.8 billion years ago, from then till 50 crore years ago, only life was confined to oceans. There was no life on terrestrial land. There was no life. And even inside the ocean also, only invertebrates were started slowly evolving. Invertebrates means backbone-less animals. There was no backbone to them to give a frame to their bodies. They are very soft-bodied, just like that. So now we are at 50 crore years ago from now. At this 50 crore years ago, from there to around 40 crore years ago, if we see, for almost 10 crore years, slowly on the land we will see starting of the plants. On the terrestrial land we see the life started producing for the first time. That is plants. How did a life which was evolved in the ocean started coming out of the ocean and formed like a plant? How did this happen? This has happened like this. Please understand. Very clear, sir. Sir, very important point. Please listen. Normally oceans will have their banks. I mean banks in the sense their exterior points, I can say. So there is where there is contact between the earth land layer and the oceanic surface. Normally, as rains were happening, as this erosion process was happening, these banks were actually slowly started shallowing down. The depth was slowly getting low. So normally when for the first time rain was attacked the surface of the earth, it was a deep strip. There was no shallow depths. But by now, if you see, if huge oceans were formed and lot of soil was actually eroding in its side, in its embankments, and that became reason for shallowing of depths. So these coastal areas were formed for the first time. Please understand, by this 50 crore years, coastal areas were formed. Now, in these shallow depths, normally what happens was, temperature will be too high. Because when the depth of the ocean in the center was too high, sunlight will not pass much. Only the top surface will be warmer and all the rest of the depth of water will be cool. But in the shallow depths, if you see, where there is a joint, where there is a transition between water surface to land surface, there is shallow depth. Because of that, when sunlight was hit hot, the water will be generally warm. So now what happened was, when the water was too warm, a small shrub-like structures, a small shrub-like plants started evolving there. Like Shrubs in the sense, you can see in the coastal areas, we see some Sundarbans, we know in the West Bengal, they are like a small shrubs, bushes like structures which only reside in the salt water, where there is a transition between ocean to land. So that was happening. That for the first time shallow depths were there. Because of that, for the first time shrubs were started in that warm salt water. And now their roots slowly spread to the surrounding land itself. Their roots, and at the same time, because of the wind action, because of water even flooding sometimes. So because of these actions, those coastal shrubs now started extending its area of occupation to land. This is how for the first time plant community colonized the earth, colonized the terrestrial land of the earth. So now at 50 crore years ago, plants also started life on this earth. Inside the ocean, what was happening? Already insects were developed, arthropods were developed. They are already very rich in number. And now, if you see for the first time, when plants are outside of the ocean, when plants are, they colonized the terrestrial lands of the surrounding ocean. Normally inside the ocean, till today, till 50 crore years back, all the life was confined only to the ocean. So normally for food, there will be huge competition among them, among the insects, among the blue-green algae. And blue-green algae will, prepare its own food. But for all other evolved organisms, food will be scarce normally. That's the reason some of the arthropods, actually highly evolved arthropods, actually started looking for food outside of ocean. So please important, this is very important point. So when they are looking outside of the ocean for food, they found these plants which were just coming up, bushing up here and there around the surface of around the terrestrial surfaces. They looked them and they started to go towards them out of the ocean. That means inside of their bodies, the adaptation was like this. So when they were too young, when they were in too larvae stage, they will have a breathing mechanism which is similar to aquatic animals. Like gills, for example, they will have a gill respiratory system. Once they become adults, these evolved organisms, once they become adults, they will have a lung respiratory mechanism, just like us, our higher evolved organisms. That means two breathing mechanisms were adapted within one organism. Why? That is because they have to stay inside when they were young. Once they get adult stage, when they get into adult stage, they have to look for outside of ocean for their food. That's the reason they have two different systems developed inside them. That's the beautiful mixing, beautiful coordination between biological evolution, between physical evolution, between environmental conditions. That's we call as adaptation. So now some section of these arthropods looking for the plant food which was outside of the ocean, and there evolved a new class of animals called as amphibians. So what are amphibians? Now we are at Amphibians Evolution, some around 50 to 40 crores years. So these amphibians are actually, when they were in larva stage, they respire through their gill breathing mechanism inside the ocean, and when they get into adult stage, they will come out and they will feed on the outside plants. This is how for the first time a mobilizing organism. Plant is not a mobilizing organism. It was fixed to the land. But for the first time a mobilizing organism jumped out of the ocean and came onto the land. So important, very important point. So this transition actually caused to a series of evolutions after that. So now amphibians got evolved. After the amphibians, a lot of amphibians came out, and they were, but they were restricted to the surroundings of oceans only. They could not able to colonize inside of terrestrial areas, because the plants were still not much colonized, much evolved. They were only restricted to oceans. But after some crores of years, some, let's say around 40 to 30 crore years, if you see, 40 crore years back ago to 30 crore years ago, I am speaking about. We are coming near to the history, so please understand. All this is part of history. You might be thinking that all these are not connected to history, but all are connected to history. Because if you don't know what was actually life, what was actually, from where this evolution started, why this started, why this happened, how this happened, you will not able to visualize the changes in the time spectrum. In history also, history is about the changes in time spectrum, so you cannot imagine them if you don't understand all these things. So please listen carefully. Now amphibians got evolved, they came out of the oceans. Out of these amphibians, some of them started developing a backbone. Some of them started developing a backbone to their life supporting system. Why? Their bodies. Why? Because when they were in ocean, they were completely soft bodied. They could not, they need not any new adaptational techniques, because all the water was soft in nature. Sudden shocks, sudden hard surfaces will never exist. And even their mobilization is completely through swimming. So there is no much focus on the stability of the body. But when amphibians came out of that, there came a mobility issue. So for the stability of the body to be mobile on the terrestrial land, for the first time, some new structure called this backbone, right? So that backbone started developing to support the body of the organism. So that organisms which are evolved out of amphibians, which have that backbone, they are called as vertebrates. What are vertebrates? Example, snake. Snake is a vertebrate. It will have a complete backbone from starting head to tail, and like that you will have. Tortoise is a reptile. Tortoise will have a skeleton structure from here to its back. So that's how for the first time reptiles came on the terrestrial land. From amphibians they got divided, evolved. Now from around this 30 crore years to around 20 crore years ago, when the reptiles got started, this 30 to 20 crore years ago, this complete 10 crore years was the dominancy of reptiles on the terrestrial land. So for the first time, when plants were rich, when plants were spreading on the terrestrial land, when amphibians are just coming out and going in for food, reptiles were the first completely terrestrial animals, vertebrates. So they were the first owners of the land, if I have to say, owners of the land before plants, after plants. Now by around 20 crore years ago to when the reptile domination was too much high, there was a sudden change. Sir, this is very important period. Around 20 crore years to some 6 crore years ago, this 15 crore year period, from 20 crore year ago, I am saying again, from 6 crore year ago. So to 6 crore years ago, this 15 crore year period was completely ice age period. There was a huge change in the solar system, in the universe itself, and that effect of, especially in the solar system, and earth was completely became too low temperature, too less cool temperatures. That was called as ice age. So suddenly this evolution process got disturbed, and in the ice age, if you see, a lot of bigger bodied animals came into the picture for the first time. Bigger bodies, like this 20 crore years ago to 6 crore years ago, we call this period as Mesozoic Era, middle, meso in the sense middle. So this Mesozoic Era is actually habitated by whom? I said very bigger bodies came for the first time, that is dinosaurs. So from 20 crore years ago to around 6 crore years ago, that was Jurassic period. So dinosaurs came up, and that was the age of dinosaurs, and they got extincted also by 6 crore years ago. So now our normal evolution, again warmer temperatures were prevailing after 6 crore years ago. Ice age was completed, normal temperatures were evolving, and now from 6 crore years ago, if you see, our evolution process were where it stopped from for reptiles. Reptiles were very dominant on the terrestrial land. First time at 6 crore years ago, sir, please listen. At 6 crore years ago, small mammals started evolving out from the reptiles. Small mammals. What is meant by mammal? Mammal is nothing but those animals, class of animals which gives milk, which gives out milk. So to their kids, to their offsprings. So those are called as mammals normally, milk feeding animals. First mammal which evolved at 6 crore years ago was rat. That is the reason, sir, please understand, because the rat was the first mammal to be evolved. We today, even till today, we do all of the experiments, medical experiments on mammal itself before we come to conclusions on human beings, because we believe, as we are mammals, as the rat is the first mammal, there will be close proximity of biological reactions. That's the reason rats and mice were actually the topmost used let's say, what we should say, objects in the medical experiments. So now 6 crore years ago, first mammals came up, and after some around 5 to 4 crore years ago, after these small mammals came up, we can see rabbits and hares have come up. Rabbits and hares. So first came rats and mice. After that, rabbits have come up. After that, hare. Hare is also one of the mammal. So hares have come up. Four-legged animal. Now, this is the period very important, sir. After 2 crore years ago, I am speaking now at 2 crore years ago. From 2 crore years ago to around some, let's say, 50 lakh years ago. From 50 lakh years ago, since, I'm very sorry, I'm not clear, right? I'm again saying, please understand. From 2 crore years ago to around 50 lakh years ago, for the first time, from these some rabbits and hares, after that a highly evolved mammal called as, what is that? Highly evolved mammal called as apes. So please understand, very important change in the evolution process, that anthropoid apes have come up. Anthropoid apes means what? Tailless human-like creatures. They will look exactly like us, but they don't have tail. For example, chimpanzee, for example, gorilla, for example, orangutan, like this. So these were for the first time, so chimpanzees, orangutans and these have come up at around 50 lakh years ago. Some 2 crore years ago to around 50 lakh years ago. And now, if you see from 50 lakh years ago to around 20 lakh years ago, we see from these chimpanzees, from these pans, from these orangutans, gorillas, there came a new species which were slowly resembling as humans but not humans. So they called as early human ancestors. Sir, very important. From 50 lakh years ago to 20 lakh years ago, from now, there evolved a new species out from this, chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans. A new species called as Homo habilis. Homo habilis, Australopithecus afarensis. These were the earliest forms of humans. Please don't get feared by listening the names. The first species, human species which came was, earliest human species came was Australopithecus afarensis. After that, from there evolved Homo habilis. Homo habilis. After that, this backbone was, till then backbone was bended till Homo habilis, but then this backbone was become straight, and there the earliest human ancestor species called as Homo erectus has come up. Homo erectus. Erectus in the sense a strong and straight body, posture, a straight posture of the body. So that at around 50 lakh years ago to 20 lakh years ago, Homo erectus have come up. And sir, very importantly, very interestingly also, from 20 lakh years ago from now to around 10,000 years ago, we saw the first eruption, the first evolution of Homo sapiens. Very important, sir. Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens means our very nearest ancestors. We are not Homo sapiens. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. We are modern man. We call as modern man. That means Homo sapiens sapiens. Within the Homo sapiens, we are the modernized people now, the present people. But till 2 lakh years ago to 10,000 years ago, we found, that means the Stone Age people, the Stone Age man, he was actually called as not Homo sapiens sapiens, he was the Homo sapiens only. So this is the first time the very near to modern man has evolved from 2 lakh years ago to 10,000 years ago. Now, from 10,000 years ago, sir, please, very important dates from here. From 2 lakh years ago to 10,000 years ago, I said Homo sapiens evolved. That period is called as prehistory. So now we are at, almost near to our discussion of direct Indian history. Till now, this is indirect history. So 20 lakh years ago to around 10,000 years ago, that was the period of prehistory. That we call as Stone Age history. We have Paleolithic age, we have Mesolithic age, we have Neolithic age. In the Paleolithic, we have upper Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic. Like that, we have divisions. From 20 lakh years ago, when Homo sapiens for the first time evolved in between 20 lakh years ago to 10,000 years ago, this was the conditions. Completely Stone Age man. That he was the Homo sapiens. He was the first human creature evolved on this earth. And the last one was the last phase of evolution started from around 10,000 years ago to till today. So this creature evolved after 10,000 years ago to till today, we are called as modern man. And we are called as modern man, that is scientifically Homo sapiens sapiens. So from 10,000, if you see, normally we call it as history. Before 10,000, we call it as prehistory. So our history, normally history starts from 10,000 years ago. Ancient history, let's say, ancient history starts from some 10,000 years ago. So this is how the evolution of life started on this earth. And this is so far our beautiful mother earth has traveled from being barren, from being rocky, from being hot, from having only thin atmosphere to having some 20 lakhs plus species of different life species, existence of such huge vegetation, existence of such huge atmospheric water bodies, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere. One of the beautiful of all planets in this solar system, in this universe, is Earth today. So this is how the life started on this Earth. So I think we came to the end of this lecture by the evolution of modern man. So what we have discussed today, just a 1 minute recapitulation. Let's recapitulate it. We started with our previous discussion, universe formation, and then we started about what was the conditions of Earth when it was formed, and then we understood how did the primordial atmosphere got stripped off, and how the new atmosphere started creating around the Earth by the inner energy which was released by Earth processes. And then we studied about what was the composition of the earliest atmosphere, where there was no oxygen but carbon dioxide was rich. And from there we studied around the formation of starting of rains because of the lowering temperatures, condensation process of gases, rain, collection of in the depressions it collected and became oceans. We studied it, and oceans inside the ocean we started some chemical complex reactions happening called as primordial soup reactions, and that primordial chemical soup became blue green algae, and that blue green algae started photosynthesis process, and that latter added oxygen to the atmosphere and deleted carbon dioxide from atmosphere, reduced carbon dioxide, and that became a stabilized atmosphere because of the contributions of blue green algae. And because of this survival limitations, life started adapting and evolving itself from ocean. First arthropods got evolved, after that arthropods. We have seen that small soft bodied creatures started evolving. From there plants got extended to terrestrial life, and after that in search of plants some of the animals came out of the ocean, and they had their dual life in ocean and on terrestrial land. They are called as amphibians, and from amphibians developed reptiles which are completely terrestrial and they are vertebrates, and from there evolved some dinosaurs. That's the ice age period. After dinosaurs got extended, we saw the evolution of mammals. For the first time rat and mice got evolved. From them rabbits evolved, and from there we have studied how the earlier anthropoid apes like chimpanzees, gorillas, they have evolved. And then from there, from these apes, we have seen the evolution of earliest human ancestors like Australopithecus afarensis or Homo habilis. After that Homo erectus. Then came Homo sapiens, who was the just ancestor of us, and then the modern man, Homo sapiens. So this is how life started on this earth and how it evolved. And I think we had done with the lecture. So I have two things for you to tell. First thing is, please, I am taking the initiative seriously. I am taking the initiative too seriously. I am putting all my efforts just in viewing the needs of the poor people who are like me, who experience a lot of pains like me, I know, who could not able to afford coachings, who could not able to afford money, any expenditure on education. For them, this Mahabharat initiative is actually aiming for to feed their needs. So please take this initiative seriously and learn. I can recommend you to please even have a notebook and just note down the rough points, if not complete in details. Generally I will give the notes, at least small, just outlines of topics, so that they may help in someday. They will definitely come to your rescue someday. We don't know where the knowledge will come to our rescue. So if you have any doubts and any questions on this lecture, I expect you to please comment, so that I will come to know what is your query, and then I will definitely give you the solution then and there itself. So please don't feel shameful, or don't feel too shy to comment. And next point I want to tell was, below I will add the attachment of this lecture, the notes, handwritten notes of this lecture, so that you can have a look over that. So I think we are over, and chalo. So this is how life started on this earth. So let's see in the next weekend's Mahabharat. Thank you.
भारत माता की
अथ श्री महाभारत कथा।